What needs to happen when someone passes away?
Welcome to Barry's Bites. Please join our host, attorney and financial advisor Chris Barry.
The first thing is we need to get a death certificate. The way that you get a death certificate, it's through typically the funeral home. They'll work with the county to get you the death certificates. Nothing really can be done until we have the death certificates. And then from there, if we have a trust, we have to do two things. We have to get a certificate of trust showing that the next person in line is the acting trustee. This is the person that can interact with the different financial institutions. And then a lot of times we need to get a tax ID number for the trust. When you open up a new bank account or a checking account, typically you'll use like your social security number. But when we're administrating an estate and a trust, we need to get a tax ID number, like a social security number for the trust. And so we get a tax ID number through the IRS. And then once we have those two documents, the certificate of trust, the tax ID, then we can follow up with the different financial accounts. So working with the life insurance, the 401k, the IRA, the checking savings. With that certificate of trust, now those different financial institutions will work with that successor trustee. And then it's just creating an inventory, a list of all the different accounts. And once we have access to those different accounts, then we got to pay off the final expenses, pay the bills, handle any funeral expenses, make sure whoever paid for the funeral is reimbursed if it was paid out of pocket, and then handle that last tax return. Make sure that final tax return is taken care of. And then once all of that is handled, we're comfortable, there's nothing else hanging out there, then the final step is looking at distributing the assets, following the terms of the trust. State administration comes down to getting the assets out of the deceased individual's names. And there's four ways that assets transfer at the end of the day. So first would be joint ownership. That's one way to transfer assets. The other is looking at the beneficiary designations. It goes to whoever's listed as a beneficiary. Third would be through a trust. And there's different types of trusts, of course. But if an asset doesn't pass through one of those first three ways, then it ends up going into probate. And that's what we always want to try to avoid. Because it's a court process, it's time consuming, and it's costly. Now, a lot of people think a will avoids probate, but all a will does is gives instructions to the probate court. So if you're looking at avoiding probate, you don't want to rely just upon a will. Instead, you're going to want to rely on one of the other ways to transfer assets, typically joint ownership, beneficiary designation, or trust. Typically, timing of this usually it takes at least a month to get the process started. And then it's just going to be working with different financial institutions. If there's real estate, then it could take a little longer because you have to get the house all prepared and stuff. But typically it's wrapped up within the first couple months.